Sai Ram, we'll be starting in 2 minutes. Just want to remind everyone to gather in the bhajan hall. Also to get your books, notebooks, whatever it is that we are taking notes in or whatever your practice is. We have no here. Sai Ram, can you confirm with a thumbs up online if you can hear me properly and clearly, honestly? And can see the screen. If someone can just put a thumbs up out there, we can get a confirmation on that. I'm already. So before we start, I know I have 1 more minute. I just want to give a little update on how to hold our mic because people online are not able to hear us. So please hold it right straight to your mouth so everyone can hear what you are going to say. It's very important when we share that the others who are actually listening online can hear us clearly, because otherwise the my part doesn't make any sense without them understanding where you all are commenting from. So yeah, just don't this, please hold like this. Yes. Okay, it's 5 and we will start with 3 ohms. Oh. 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 Let's pray to our Swami. Dear Swami, we are so grateful to be able to meet here together in your presence today. While we are here together studying your word in your Bhagavatha Vahini, we ask that you open our ears and hearts to whatever it is you want us to learn. Please speak through each one of us and help us progress in our spiritual journey. Jai Sai Ram. Just want to kind of remind everyone of the etiquette. I know we have always discussed and have been on the same page as far as this goes, but just want to remind everyone to stay focused on the topic, to not be disrespectful, and have an open mind. Let's be cognizant of the time, and also let's not put on a display of intellectual prowess. This is just a platform that we are all trying to learn from each other. The best part and the best practice that we can have is to open our hearts. And for that, we'll have to leave our ego outside this bhajan hall, which would be ideal. And we hope that Swami is guiding us through that. Sai Ram. So just a little review of the last session. Last session, we started with chapter 2. We heard the entire chapter. We started the initial discussion with Parikshit in the womb when he experienced the divine protection. And we talked about a couple of things, from what is a divine protection to ask, do we have to ask for it? Do all of us have it? And how do we experience and how do we know that we are protected? Of course, we did discuss that we are all protected, whether we know it or not. And it was also discussed that whether we experience it or not, God is always with us. So in us and around us, actually, we had said that too. So with that, I just want to get started by asking for any further questions or something that your takeaway was from last week that we can all discuss today, or we can continue the discussion. But just wanted to see if there is any other topics or anything that came to your mind during that discussion that we did not talk.
Right. On this chapter, I want to add a few remarks. Um, so one thing that I'm reminded of, if you look through the whole chapter of the chapter 2, at the end of it, it's a, are we done with the chapter, or are we?
No, we are just done with the first part of the chapter where we just talked about Parikshit and his experience in the womb. That's all.
Okay.
We'll be discussing the rest of it. Yes, Saira. Okay, sure. Yeah, if anyone else has anything up to add from what we were discussing last week.
It's not adding, it was a question. Yudhishthira asks the, the sage about Parikshit's future, right? No. That is not the thing. The thing is, why worry about the future when we know that whatever is going to happen is going to happen? That is also, we are going to talk. Oh,
We are jumping. So when I said open forum, I'll be very clear. I was only talking about what we discussed from last week or from chapter 1. So last week we discussed only about the baby in the womb, and I can go there so that so this is what we discussed last week when he had seen the bright light, and he felt the divine protection, and he also saw the person, but he, with the chakra, I think when he says terrific wheel, I'm assuming that's the chakra, and how he was protected. So this is what we talked last week, and we can move on if no, if
Yeah, I have one question there on that topic.
Yes, please.
Okay, so this narration, does it come from Parikshit? That he saw it is his, so we all probably saw it, but we don't remember it. Yeah, so
But why will we have arrows towards our mom's stomach? That is not.
Something else. Whatever happened in the womb, we don't remember it. He remembers. That's sort of.
Okay. Yeah, so let me just move on. I think I'm confusing people. Okay. Bhargava, can you please read for us?
The doyen of the group, a great pundit, at last rose and addressed King Yudhishthira. Maharaja, I have till this day examined thousands of horoscopes and prepared concerned plans of the zodiacs and constellations. But I must admit, I have never come across a more auspicious grouping than is indicated in this horoscope. Here, all the signs of good augury have assembled in one moment, the moment of this prince's birth. The moment it indicates the state of Vishnu himself. All the virtues will gather in this child. Why describe each glory separately? The great Manu has again come into your dynasty.
Yeah. So I just wanted to discuss about this because so traditionally, I know that we are all looking at the astrological predictions. How important is that, and why should we believe it? These are all questions that in today's life, to kind of how much there is a lot of information on these things online too. In today's life, what do we do? I mean, are we going to believe this? How can we be guided by these stars and planetary positions? And if all of this is already predetermined, what is the importance of our action then? So
See, I kind of believe, because Swami has always said that. So the astrology and astrological predictions, they are valid. In other words, There is Nadi Josiam, which we have all heard, where in the palm scripts they have written I don't know when, so many eons ago, and they are still valid. Many of the people have seen. So my takeaway with that one is there is a, a, a God's will, if you may say that. That is what is portrayed, and that determines when you are born, or I think it determines when you are born, and that because the time at which a time of your birth determines that broad scope. It's like the train example. The train's direction, which train you get in, is based on the birth, but within the carriage that you are seated, where you are seated, whether you are able to move from that, it's up to you. So you can move, that is during that birth, you can move from one seat and maybe close to the exit. That way, in that lifetime, you can get on and then maybe take on the next train, which goes in another direction. So there is a possibility, there is a free will to that extent. But you're all guided by that train which goes in that direction. That is due to your prarabdha karma. And that is, you may call that God's will. This is my take on that one. So it's both are there, but that to that extent, the predictions will be correct. But they won't be able to predict what you will do tomorrow. That they cannot do that. But overall, they may be able to say, based on your birth time and day, they can say you will be doing well in this life. You may be whatever. That kind of a prediction.
I think it, Sairam, changes from the age you live in, which like Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga, the belief system. And the Nadi Josiam, I went in Vaidishwaran Kovil. They have this palm leaves, ancient things written. I consulted, and he said pretty much a lot of things very accurately for my son and my daughter. But it is amazing how much they have that information written long ago from a rishi and all. So, Nadi is, it's not that Nadi, not this one. It was coming down from rishis, actually, predicted, So, but in astrology, I believe that there's a lot of mathematical calculation. Each one, is different. Two astrologers won't agree on one chart, how it is. And also it has to be the birth time, very important. You have to exactly note it down, because where the moon is located at that time of your birth, the star. So it is very deep. But we cannot just based on that, we cannot say, okay, it is written in my chart that I will do this. It's like a joke that I read. Two friends are walking down, and this guy is walking in the middle of the road, and there's a truck coming, and he says, oh, I know I'm going to live up to age 80. But the friend says, but the truck driver doesn't know that. So it is like that. We cannot blindly think of astrology and horoscope and lead our life with that, I think.
So the Brahma Kumaris, remember? And that lady who talks, one of the Shivani, yes. So she said that, and that kind of, got ingrained in my head, is that she said that, yes, the past, whatever you did, that is going to affect you now. So for example, in your past life, you had a bad misunderstanding with somebody. That person may be born to you today as, it could be your husband or wife today, but the way you react to the current situation, that is still in your hand. And that is going to determine the next future setup. So proper action is very, very critical. Each time you need to think about that part of it, because yes, whatever happened before, it's going to affect you now, but this action is going to dictate that as this one. So
See, Baba has said that we are like a tree, in a tree, it has the roots. Tree cannot exist without the roots. We also have roots, so-called the past karmas. They are like the roots. They are there. We can't see it, but they are there.
So if this astrologically, they can tell what was the past and also can tell what the future, then there is a possibility of knowing it. This was my past. Say I take my mistake. I had a past, whatever. It's way, way back for earlier lifetime. There is a past like the tree roots, and that is going to show up now and in future also. So if astrologically they can tell for the future, there's some sense in it, believing if they can truly tell. If they just hocus pocus, that's a different thing. But if there's some, which they can. So there is some sense in astrology, what you said, that the child would die of snake bite. There was something in it. This is the way I'm looking at it. So
Yeah, Sai Ram. So one thing about Nadi Josiam, I was introduced to that about 50 years ago from one of my bosses. He had just had the reading, and so he said the way it goes is actually the original ones, which they see in Vaidiswaran Koval, for example. It came from a place called, one library was there that was destroyed. Yeah, Saraswati Mahal. Saraswati Mahal in Tanjore was destroyed by the Muslims at that time. And so people knew the value of these, documents. So they just, whoever could know about it, they just grabbed it and then ran away with it so that, if they are not caught. And they took it different parts of the country. Similar thing happened near, near Bombay also. But the whole thing that they came to the conclusion was the entire creation falls into very specific categories. I think they said something like 5,000 or some number they said. Almost everybody falls into one of those 5,000. So that is what they have categorized. For example, my boss was working in BHEL at that time. The plant we were doing was producing boilers for producing steam in steam power plant. So that was the business. So in his thing, it actually said something about, you will be working in water related something, almost relating to steam. So, and even the name was predicted, your mother's name is, poetically said like this. And you can see that that is exactly what they did. So there is some truth to what, and according to that, our entire thing, everybody is coded already.
Okay. So,
So within that
uh-huh.
coding, you will have different experiences. Experiences fall into the same category. You may go through suffering. The suffering may not say you will have in the leg or that can vary. And that again comes to the karma theory. What you did in the previous life in a particular way will affect you this life. So that's how I think it goes.
So if we are all put in 5,000 buckets of sorts, it's almost like computer programming. But so how much do we trust that? I mean, how do we know? Like these days, it's obviously that kind of pundit who has seen million of Jyotishnam is not really true. I mean, I don't know. I don't know of anyone personally as a astrologer, but I'm just asking how much of that is of real value today, and what must we do? I mean, listen to that and ignore it, or listen to that, ponder upon it and act on it? I mean, what is our action?
Sairam, see that normally people will not go for astrology for prediction, future prediction. Normally, that's the thing. So they just, because if you're as a young person, if you're going to go to the astrologer to see my future, that is not really, at least to what the parents and the elders will take that horoscope or this one to the astrologer to find out how the child is going to go. But the child themselves are not encouraged to go to the astrologer to find out their future. because then they may just believe it and not act something that they should be acting. So it is a double-edged sword. Okay. So on one end, you want to believe it, but at the same time, it's like you have to have an ambition to work towards it, but leave the fruits of the action. So it is like that. So you have some faith in that astrology, but at the same time, it should not come in the way of your working. So just should not be blindly believing on it and not doing your work, day-to-day work.
I think mine is more of a question. So astrology, I don't know much about it, but I was thinking, does it predict what happens to our physical body and our actions impact our karma? I guess.
Yeah, I think so. See, in fact, a person came to Swami. You know that this one, right? A person came with the nadi and said, Swami, everything is written in the nadi exactly matches you. Okay, and you are Narayana himself. And then he cites all the things. And then he says that you will have this curly hair, you will have a red robe, all the things. And then he says that at the time when I'm going to read this to you, there'll be some millions of clangings. Okay, then he doesn't know what it is. Then Swami points to the thing. There is a train that's going far away. So all those things are true. But then he does a different thing. Then he says, "You are Lord Narayana." That's that person. But then he says, Swami says, this is a different aside from this. Swami says, "Okay, eat. Come have prasad." And so no, today is Vaikuntha Ekadashi. I don't eat. I fast on it. So he says, "I am Lord Narayana, and I am offering food." And you are saying that you are Vaikuntha Ekadashi and you won't be fasting. So it is total. He doesn't have faith in what he says. That's what Swami says. Anyway.
So I agree with the potency of astrology. That's what we are trying to say, right? There is potency there, but in today's world, how relevant it is for us to actually even have, have this kind of thing. We don't know. I mean, these days. So in this, there were, I don't know, number of pundits who came in, saw the baby's timing of birth, etc., and they did all of that. But in today's world, I don't know if that is something that we all follow in terms of, or I don't know what is the right approach to such things, because this information flows into your ears, believe it or not, whether we want it or not.
Well, people do, even today, people follow it. It tells you the day-to-day things, what's happening, and it kind of helps you to prepare. So, for example, at this time, some of us will have the Shani Bhagavan acting on, that thing. Some of them last only weeks and days. Then, when you are going through this, it tells you, okay, this is the astrological thing. So let me handle this. No, it's going to happen. So why fight it? So just, that kind of way of using it is productive. And if you want to say, okay, it says so that I don't have to do anything, I'll be getting there, that may not happen.
Yeah, just to add to the Shankaranji, it's okay for us to follow or get it checked and have that, but we need to have the courage to accept if there is anything negative in that. If, you have to kind of have faith that, okay, if this has to happen, it's going to happen. Accept it like that. But sometimes people lose sleep over it. Then you should not go for it. Now, often a true astrologer would not reveal the things that might affect. Usually they don't talk about death and all those things. They usually will talk about business or relationship or things like that. But just in case someone is like putting the whole thing out, or we keep asking, but we have to have the courage. Otherwise, we should not go for it. That's what is mine.
So funny thing is, one of my cousin's wife, very much into astrology. Back in India, they are still there. So she had like 2 daughters and 1 son. So the first daughter, according to the astrology and astrologer she consulted, the name is not right. So the girl's name was Jyoti. So then Jyoti grew up and got married, but this mom changed her name to Sudha, according to the astrology. And then Jyoti and Sudha, we didn't know which one to call her. We are all used to call her Jyoti, and suddenly she has become Sudha. And then she got into an accident, in a life-threatening accident. And then she got divorced, and she had a baby girl. So all this happened. She suffered a, long story short, suffered a lot. Then mom consulted again. Sudha has become Jyoti now. So that Sudha is not good for her. Things like that. It's kind of very ridiculous to hear, but people, the extreme, Subhadra was saying, people go to the extreme just by changing the name, whatever reason they were convinced. So I think we have to use our common sense. And not every day we consult astrology, okay? Then you will be paranoid whether I should step out today, is the sun is in the right place or moon is the right place or whatever. But overall, the planetary, all these alignments, the planets have energy. So people get affected during the transition of Mercury or Shani or whatever. We may not be able to explain it properly, but they do affect us in certain ways at certain period. But knowingly or without knowing also, we do our karma, whatever it is. They talk about in Sudharma and Swabhava. So what we do is, in our life, we can continue with the dharmic way, our actions, and offer everything to Swami, God. Then we are okay,
Well, she was just mentioning, I personally don't take much stake in astrological predictions. It's what matters is the day-to-day lives, acting on right conduct and doing the right things and building up that good karma to aspect. Whatever your astrological predictions, whether they are correct or incorrect, shouldn't be a matter or a concern to you, I feel.
And Swami has also said that, the astrological things can never harm you when you are under my protection. So, yeah, so that we have to remember, we have to have that faith, right? Again, going back to that faith.
So let's move on then, I think. So this is after the baby is born and how Yudhishthira reacts. If anyone would like to read this.
After the baby is born, Yudhishthira invites pundits to predict the child's life based on planetary positions. Even after hearing many details, Yudhishthira was not satisfied. He wanted to hear more from them of the excellence of the prince's character. The pundits were encouraged by this yearning. They said, "O king, you seem eager to know about some more aspects of the child's fortune. We shall be only too glad to answer the specific questions that you feel inclined to put us." Noting their enthusiasm, Yudhishthira came forward and asked, "During the regime of this prince, will there be any great war? If war is inevitable, will he achieve victory?" "No," said the pundits. "He won't be pestered by any foe. He knows no failure or defeat in any undertaking of his. This is absolutely true and unshakable truth." Hearing this, Yudhishthira and the brothers Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva looked at each other with great joy.
So here is, I think, okay, I actually wanted to put more, but I did not add everything. This is just the piece where at the end of the chapter, Yudhishthira keeps pestering those pundits to give them in more and more detail. Initially, he talks only about till the war. Then he asks, oh, how is he going to be as a king? Then he asks, will he respect his elders and everyone else? Everyone says, oh, yes, yes, yes. And then he pushes even more to ask, oh, how is he going to end? How is he going to die? And even though everyone tells him not to kind of push it more, Yudhishthira could not stop himself. So there is a, so this is just a basis of how our desires get the better of us, I feel. But I mean, why is the case? I mean, why does he want to know everything and wanted to actually kickstart with Saumya? Sorry, because she had actually started the conversation earlier when we were. Remember when we? Yeah, please go ahead. Complete your thought if you still remember it.
No, that was last week, right? So when Yudhishthira was asking so many questions about future, my first question was, why is he? He's a Dharmaraja. He knows that, everything. You have to just do the action as a Dharmaraja. Why ask the future? What was the purpose of it? And why are we paying this much attention to future and astrological things when we know that there is so much gray area and not everything comes out true?
Okay, I have a take on that one, Saira. You have to look at the context. Yudhishthira at that time, they have just ended a big war between their cousins, and all their children have died. Only grandson is the only one left. And they have fought a war that was like devastating. All their cousins are killed. So this one is whether this only see, as a king, that used to be their one of their biggest thing, that their dynasty has to continue. That is a big pressure on them. That's why the kings used to marry, and they used to have, because they need to get a son. Otherwise, it's a big problem for them. So their kingdom can thrive only if they have a male child. That was the thing, that norm that was followed. So you look at it from that standpoint. So he wants to know whether there is going to be war. And if there is not going to be a war, okay, that's good thing. Okay, will he survive? Will he live to be a king? So that is the back of his mind. That's why he's seeking all that information from the
Sairam, sorry, but I agree with that piece of it. But Yudhishthira, just for the rest of the world, these are brothers who spend time with Krishna in their lifetime. And even after that, he's come down to, I mean, this is a instance where he's down to our levels. So,
Sairam. So that's exactly the one which I want to address. I don't know if it is Swami's specific thing to kind of teach us, through Yudhishthira, what we are. And so, for example, two things we do normally, we all have cell phones, and our cell phones have most of them, irrespective of the operating system, there is a weather map, So we go there, we want to know today how the weather is going to be. It's a beautiful day. Then we say, oh, today is a beautiful day. How about tomorrow? You look at that. And then, oh, that's tomorrow. Oh, it is so beautiful. Let me go. When is the next storm coming? Then it will be 8 days later and, storm is coming. It's going to be severe snow. And the following day, then we see, oh, it's going to be very cold. The snow is not going to go away. We now worry only about that. And we are not enjoying this moment of nice weather and all this. And that may be true and may not be true. And then we'll go and look at some other things, like that's the comparison here with all the astrologers here. We go and look at different models, European model, that model. Oh, they are all converging to the same conclusion. Then we say that it has to be true. That's exactly what has happened in this conversation. They are, all the astrologers joined together and then say they all predict the same thing. And now we want to worry about that. In answer to your question, yes, they have answered that. There will be no war. He will live for a long time. He will be doing this. He will be doing that, everything. But Yudhishthira is not satisfied in that. He wants to know, how will end will be. And then once the end is known, then he wants to worry about that. And, so that is one thing. The other example I want to give, this happened, how can everything be so perfect is our other thinking. If everything's said to be right, then there must be something wrong. So many years ago, when I was, in the 70s, so there was a concert by, TVS brother, that group. One of the granddaughters of TVS, two of them were actually giving a concert. I was only in the 20s, like almost like Bhargav's age. And they were very beautiful girls, young girls, who gave this big concert. And they were also good student. We come to know of all this. And then they are very rich, of course. They come from a very, wealthy family. So all that, then one of my friends, it's still, my reverberating in my mind. One of them, how can this be? They must have some fault. They must have suffering something, you know. You know, they must be having some, deficiency. How can everything be, in the so it's almost like, Yudhishthira reminds me of that. Everything they are saying is good, but he wants to know, whether he will die. Of course, they will say he will die. Then he wants to know how he will die. Then he wants to worry about, why a serpent has to, why does he give a curse? So it's all, it is reflecting you and me, I feel. That's
Sairam, I think to know about the future is not wrong. Obsessing over the future is wrong. We do have to make plans. We do need to look at the weather, especially when making travel plans. We do need to plan that, but obsessing over it because things can change. So we have to live in the moment, but we do have to plan. We do need to know about our future. Sairam.
Madam, so after all this, like what I hear is like the astrology is a model. Whatever you're saying it like today we concluded more of the artificial intelligence, the large language models. What we build it, and predictions are something like this. What we are doing it with, which are being an outcome of multiple factors. What we input into a system that can give it. Like even if we all consider that okay, astrological model is like a 5,000 different types of buckets and all those things. If it is a combination and what are the actions, what we are doing it is if it is the outcome of that thing, if that is the defined, okay, even still like, I feel like in the quantum mechanics, what we say is like, even though you input the same type of data into a system, the outcome which comes is always a different. So is it something like whatever the models that they've defined by these pundits or whoever it is, whoever is advising Yudhishthira on these things, who is really judged about those people? Whatever they say, is it really good? Is it really correct or not? Who is judging them? It is Yudhishthira has a belief that like, okay, this person, I am believing him, so he's believing in this system. And at the same time, I think that like we all talk different topics. Is okay. One is detaching, but I feel like in this context, Yudhishthira is so attached to the things. So he's so attached. So when you are so attached, you are so obsessed to know the future and all these things, and you're not living to the word, to the moment. And also like he's not practicing the detachment also. So that itself is like a contradictory to what it is. Like if Swami is really has to tell that thing, and if Bhagavad Gita has to tell this thing, that the practice is to come saying that how do we detach it? But showing all these different paths, and then at the end say that, oh, you please detach. That how does it will be possible? So I think like we all be taught in a different models. Like okay,
So I'm just kind of jumping on what Subhadra said. So just like the weather, I mean, I'm no scientist or the weather, a lot of times they're wrong. So just like that, I mean, it's a guide to like to plan like, oh, next weekend we were going to have something, it's going to rain. Just like that, even the astrologer, it's just a guide, right? We can't go by the book. But I also think like with us, when we want to know the future, it also has to do with desire. So in a way, Yudhishthira, I could be wrong here, he wants to know because he wants a son, right? So however that was back then, even it is like this now, but it is a desire, it is a desire. So that's my take on it. So
I think this is good way to look at it because we are all judging Yudhishthira now. So, right? We know better than him. He shouldn't have done that, right? Yes. But we are also Yudhishthras, We also forget to live in the moment, enjoy it, and cherish it. When something comes, we are already moved on to the next one. So we can look at put ourselves in his shoes, and this is how we are leading our lives. So maybe that's why Swami brought this up and then give us awakening call that enjoy this moment and don't worry about all that. Knowing the end of it also, he's not happy, very, very unhappy. He is missing the birth of the child, the precious child in their dynasty. So that is a lesson for us to learn.
Quick thing. See, I think I'm going back to that situation. I mean, he's the only child, so you got to put. Yes, Yudhishthira is very much very much attached to the child. That is only because that is the only one left in the whole thing.
Okay, so okay, I have this thing with this whole story is because Yudhishthira and he has been blessed with the company of the divine. Okay, I'm learning to be with the company of the divine. He has been blessed with someone who lived with them for all 12 years when he was, thrown out of the kingdom. But at the end of the day, he came back to thinking like me, right? That is the piece that actually stuck in my head. Sorry.
So, I'm listening all these different versions, right? So one thing, I've been to Nadi Shastra, and they said whatever the major incidents in my life, they do occur randomly. So is that 100% accurate? I do not know. Is that completely incorrect? No. It's obviously there are some incidents happened which predictions were saying, and it could be possible with everybody. So knowing the predictions, there is a question asking, knowing the predictions or going to astrology asking all these questions, is that relevant or not? It depends on what situation you are in your life. Like in the life, you are in a different phases. You are young, maybe at that time you are ambitious, you want to know something. And later you just take it, okay, let it happen. And later in the phase, you don't even care about it. So knowing. So if you are young, energetic, and you want to know, do something, and it depends on what kind of background you have. Maybe that what it pushes to know something about your future, career, astrology, everything. There might be no believers also, people who don't even believe astrology. It's their way of life. So they don't even care what kind of predictions they are giving. But whatever has to happen, it happens in their life. It happens in our life too. So the question is, once you reach a phase where you don't know or you know it, it doesn't matter at that point. So end of the day, what Baba said, somebody also mentioned the same thing. So if you are into the fold of some guru or Baba, Swami, then it doesn't care. It doesn't matter at all in the life. You do, it has to happen, it will happen. And you just keep doing your routines and give it up. Whatever has to happen, Baba will take care. That's what I feel.
I also want to add something else here. In one of the recent thought for the day, Yudhishthira has been described by Swami as Astashatru, Ajatashatru. That means, he's incapable of hating anybody. He's incapable, basically. So, now coming to digital, you can either hate or you can love, But now what this story is telling us is there is also nothing like black and white, there is also gray. So that is, I think, is the highlight of this. And so even though he cannot hate, he does not mean pure love, such question should not come, right? I mean, a person who is in pure love. So obviously this is saying that he cannot hate, but does not mean that he can love all the time. So it is almost like, just because I don't love something, I may not like something, but that does not mean that I hate it, So that is the distinction I think we have to make. And I think that's what is highlighted here. So he's still behaving as a human thing. So I think it comes from his own vasana. So I think that's what it is revealing here. So.
But at the same time, so just moving on to the next question that I posed here, because so generally when we know these things, desires lead to fear because we are worried just like Subhadra pointed out, you know, we don't want to be attached, but we do fear that impacts our faith in many things. You know, is there a propelling force to change it to fearlessness once we have this kind of, we go from up and down, right? We are not at the same steady state at all times. So how can we do that? How can we bring ourselves back once we go through and get attached to all of the other things on losing or winning or hating or whatever it is, that we get so used to this, we get attached to our desires. That's what I think. I mean, the bottom line for me is desire, but maybe if anyone else has anything, you know, any other word that we can use. And I feel like desires bring out fear. And that fear obviously impacts devotion and faith and bhakti. Yeah.
I remember reading Krishnamurti, his one book, it's just called Fear, small one. And in that, one of the points he made was, fear is nothing other than an emotion. It's nothing other than we experience it in many different ways, the same fear, because it's only one emotion. And he said that when you own that fear, and it becomes you, that you are not running away from that fear, you are not afraid anymore. It is you. That fear is me. So I'm not going to be afraid of that. I'm not going to run away from that, which takes a lot of energy out of you. So this was one of the way he showed to overcome the fear, was to acknowledge it and let that it is me. That fear is me. So you're not then running away or nothing. Do I run away from anything I am? Whatever I am, I am, okay? I can't run away from it. I can't disprove it because I am. That's what he said, when that fear, you own it. Yes, it is me. Then it gives you that power to not run away, or it will give you strength even. That is the way he showed how to let go fear to fearlessness. I tried many times. This was long time back. And I did try. But after a while, I think I got lost. Where was it? I don't know. But I did try to say, he's saying, own that fear. When you own that fear, say, I'm afraid of dark. I'm done. So he said, you own it. Okay, then I'm not running away from that fear, which I call darkness or heights or anything. I think if we worked on it.
So Asha ji gave a philosophical way to handle that. And you go to the same astrologers who predicted all this, they also have an answer. And they will say, perform this parihara. So to get that fearlessness out, that's what they will say. So they will say, do these things to overcome or minimize the impact of this. So yes, they do have a solution there.
So again, going back to something that I saw, one great soul, he was demonstrating. So he had 2 tuning forks, and on the second tuning fork, there was this ball that was attached to the string, and that was touching the other tuning fork. So he took this tuning fork and hit it. This was at a different frequency than the other tuning fork. When he hit it, nothing happened to that other tuning fork. But when he took the same type, these were, they were separated by a space, an air, right? Then when he took the exact frequency of the other tuning fork and hit it here, that ball started moving up and down. He said, that's how it happens. Think about this as yourself. And all the emotions that you show, that is what is going to come back to you. So if you show fear, you're going to get back more fear. If you're going to show love, that's what you're going to get. So be aware of your frequency is what he was saying. So we need to remember that.
See, FDR said, right, there is nothing to fear but fear itself. So the fear, why do we have fear? Because we have a lot of desires and expectations. When they don't get met by whatever it is, then we have the fear of failure or fear of not having it or whatever. So first and foremost, I heard that just to don't have these unrealistic expectations of people, of situations, even of yourself. You know, there is one lady who was so scared of, she didn't say it is her husband or father. And she was so sick and she was so scared. And then one day in her therapy, she realized that this person is an alcoholic, okay? And I cannot expect any rational, any decent behavior from this person. So expecting that is my mistake. So what I can do, not to expect this unrealistic expectation of people which they cannot meet, and I am disappointed, and I have the fear. So I think we have to go from fear to fearlessness. That happens when we have the faith, when we have that dedication and devotion towards whoever you believe in, you know, and then have courage to face that.
So I have a question in this case. So assume that there are two people with same kind of desire, right? One person is able, same desire, like, oh, I need to do really well in my life and whatever that are. Okay, and one person is very fearful every step, but the other person is not, both have the same desire, right? How come the other person who has the same amount of desire is able to approach it in a fearless manner compared to the one with fear, you know? So I understand that everything, the fear stems out of desire, but two people with the same desire, one is able to do it without fear, while the other one is. So how do we approach that part?
So I don't think any two person are the same. So I think what matters is a lot of other factors. And that's a great segue to what I was actually going to say, because seriously, fear exists in everyone. I don't think there is anyone without fear. Sometimes we fear the physical things, darkness, bugs, animals, whatever it may be. Sometimes we have internal fears. For example, of losing things or of not achieving what we set out to achieve. Those are also fears, but all of them stem from only one, and that is desire, attachment in whatever. Now, if two people with the same desire, as in, I don't think there is anyone in the world who doesn't want to be leading a happy life, a comfortable life. But even if they have the same desire, I think again we have to go back to their karmas then, as to how they have handled or how their outlook. So whenever there is fear, our actions are not very confident. I mean, we lack that self-confidence because of the fear of losing things or not having the confidence to step forward in, and that fear stops us in many, many ways, not just in one. Yes.
It's just the execution. Like when you have fear, like the execution of the same actions will be different. So it depends. Like it's again the contextual. Like it all depends on the context. So every day we go through so many contexts. So it all depends. Like whether we are happy, whether we are sad, or all these things depends on the lot of context.
I mean, the proportional is what I'm trying to say. Desire and
Yes.
fear are not proportional to each other.
I see a comment here that says maybe Yudhishthira has more fear than faith. That's why he has so many questions.
Yeah, I think so. That is true. Because of fear only, he wants to know all these things, right? If he has faith, like you said, Krishna is among them, right? And why fear? when Krishna is near. But he didn't think that way. So absolutely the fear of the survival of the dynasty, and probably fear about the welfare of his grandson, So absolutely fear only, it shivers at every shadow, fear. That is the thing, every little thing they are scared.
I want to just end with a little joke here. On the same question from Soumya. Years ago, when we are going to the retreat, so that's how. And sorry, Venkat, but you are in this joke. So, so we are going through Route 13, driving there. I'm just following him. Both of us have the same desire. I'm following him. Both are following the same speed limit. Remember that. Okay. He passes by and then the cop car catches me and gives me a ticket. So, so what do you say? The desires are the same.
Yeah. But so yeah, so we have to be aware when that desire is turning into a fear, into an attachment that turns into a fear. Well, and how do we bring out that awareness, and what do we do with it once it comes? I mean, Jiddu Krishnamurti is great, but by just saying fear is me, I don't know how I'm going to deal with that.
See, I think it's attachment. The moment attachment comes, even look at our own life. If you're attached to something, you worry whether it'll happen. What will happen? It's in the mind. You can't help it. But if there's attachment is less or no attachment, it really doesn't matter really, whatever is happening. So a lot, I think, in our life, not that time, but today, right now, there is a attachment. I find that the more there's attachment, the more all kinds of fears are there. But the moment that attachment is gone or less, fear is gone. You don't care actually there. Whatever happens will happen. Hey, we'll see it. That's it. This is what the way I think.
Yeah. See that.
So I just love one. What Ashaji said is like an empty vessel makes a lot of noise, and whereas a full vessel doesn't even make noise. That means like, okay, when you are being filled with so many things, and it all depends on the objective. If the objective of we need to get a very good loud voice or something like this, we all say that, okay, beat the empty vessel so that you get a voice. But in the same way, like in that context, like, if we have to leave our fears, we should not have the attachments. That is what like, and how well we will be practicing not to have the attachments, then we'll not have the fear. So that's exactly like, if you have to be empty, try to be empty as much as empty, like then we be careless.
See, the thing is, what I'm thinking is, it's not just the attachment, it's also the expectation. I think we all talked about it. So the stronger the expectations, in the same key, in this Yudhishthira example, or in this one, if Yudhishthira had been skeptical with the astrologer's prediction, he had not had full belief in what the astrologer is saying, he is not going to be having that much fear. Even though he's very much attached to that Parikshit. I mean, that child attachment may still be there, but he may not have that much fear because astrologers are saying, okay, maybe it will be true, maybe it won't be true. But when he has 100% faith in what they are saying, then his expectation for that child to survive and live long so that his dynasty will thrive, that brings that fear. So when he believes and when he thinks that that's not going to happen, that's when that fear comes.
Yeah, I think one point is that to overcome fear is confrontation. You have to confront that and say, whatever be the consequence, you have to accept that.
Sairam,
And-
this case he confronted.
Yeah.
And then
so-
he felt even more worried.
Yeah, well, I want to just quote this example of, one of my bosses at that time. His wife was diagnosed with cancer, and it was pretty, ultimate stage. But, there were possibilities of treatment, so he was all very confused, So that was creating a lot of fear. So he went for another, some consultation, came back, and finally they decided nothing can be done. And he was convinced, and she was convinced that, we had to just face it. The moment that they confronted the truth, and then, they were able to make peace with this is anyway going to happen. So they are able to accept. So Ashaji's words, acceptance is finally the one that really, removes that fear. So,
I feel me in my life now, right now, I'd rather not know the future. Go back, how many, 20 years back, maybe more. If somebody had said to me, your son is going to die of suicide, just imagine, they told, okay? Look what I would have gone through that even 20 years before what he did. It did. It might be true, very true. But look what the person would have gone through that 20 years, waiting for it to happen. It may happen, may not have happened. But to living with that, knowing that future when it is negative or hurtful, you better not know it. It's okay, whatever will come, will come. Hey, worst is he'll die, okay? Or somebody will die or you'll die. This is the worst thing that can happen. Okay, you don't know when, why. That's the why God made it, that you don't know when you will die or anybody will. Why have to know? I really feel at this time in life, I don't want to know that future. Whatever will come, we'll see it. What the heck? Right? This is the way. It may be true, it may not be true. Both ways, I don't want to know it. Whatever that might be, let me live in peace from now till whatever that might be. Who cares? So this is my experience, and that's the way I live, because I can't live it if or without it. This is the
Saira.
experience, eh?
Thank you, Ashaji. And that's a great conclusion to everything that we just said today about astrology and fearlessness and how it impacts us. So I know we are almost at time. I just wanted to, this is the end of chapter 2. Just want to give a minute for everyone to write your takeaway. This chapter we talked about Parikshit and how Yudhishthira calls for all the astrologers, expects them to give him the answers. They do, and eventually Yudhishthira pushes them to talk about Parikshit's end. And even after that end, Yudhishthira is unable to let go. So again, just to put it in perspective, just one takeaway for you from this chapter would be a nice end to this. Our life application this week is again to bring awareness to our desires. Obviously, even Yudhishthira can have desires. I feel very confident of all my desires. So I observe every day and I record them. I record a lot of new desires, not the ones that are existing. So I am trying to figure out how many new things keep adding into my list as time is moving. That is just a self lesson for me. So please, let's all do that and kind of maybe have some fun conversations at some point about this. With that, I'd like to end the session with Om and 3 Shantis. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sai Ram. Thank you everyone for joining today, and thanks to all who are online. Appreciate it.